So, Marvel Rivals has been out for like 3 months now, a little bit over maybe. Oh my god, are we up on like 4 months now of this game? That's crazy. And I haven't really been making any content on anything really for the last few months now. I've honestly just been playing this season a lot. I've been playing Overwatch for like too long, since 2016, since it launched. So took a little break and went into the world of Marvel Rivals. And honestly, it's kind of crazy. The game at times kind of feels like what Overwatch could have been potentially, and it's kind of like cool to see that. Like, what if Overwatch like never ended up going down the Overwatch 2 route, and like what if they had a big dev team and like had resources and like a high budget and was able to go like the Fortnite route, and collabs everywhere. Now, things are changing up over there for Overwatch right now. They've got some interesting changes. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But yeah, Marvel Rivals has honestly been scratching the itch that Overwatch kind of used to scratch and then kind of stopped, and then we were kind of forced to play it because that's still the only like thing that really comes close. Overwatch 2 kind of took a little bit of a different route. I feel like the game was trying to be more like shootery, more like hardcore competitive, and I think it ended up going down a more like sterile route. Like the game still, I don't know, it feels good, like it runs good, better than Marvel Rivals, and it can be fun at times, but it's just not quite the same. I never really was like a big like 6v6 truther or anything like that, but after playing the 6v6 mode in Overwatch that they recently added, I might be converted. It's probably the most fun I've had in a minute, combined with like the perks and stuff that they've added. Not all the perks were great, but I do like kind of enjoy the direction that they're going down. It feels like they're really kind of leaning in again to the whole like fantasy element of the game that kind of Marvel Rivals really captures, like the fun of it all. Obviously Marvel Rivals isn't perfect, and there's like this big debate among like the two communities, which is kind of crazy to me because I feel like these like Overwatch and Marvel Rivals really should be like one community at this point. The games are so similar, and like the overlap, I feel like if you're an Overwatch player in general, you should be happy about the success of Marvel Rivals, because like I said, it really is kind of like getting to see like what Overwatch could have been. Obviously it's not through the vessel of Overwatch, instead we're getting it through another game. Feels like a lot of care was put into this game. Initially when it was launched, I think a lot of people, including myself, kind of thought it might be more of a cash grab, like meant to, I don't know, come and go as a lot of similar games kind of did. But 3 months in and we're still going strong. They have a lot of seeming like plans coming up, and they've been consistent with updates. I will say the season kind of does drag on a little bit longer than maybe it needs to, but I mean, they're learning, it's just starting out. I have faith, hopefully, but they seem to be very determined to not go in the route that Overwatch ended up going. So like I said, it's just crazy. It's like a full circle moment. But Marvel Rivals Season 1 has been, I think, overall positive, The Fantastic Four coming into the game was honestly really awesome. I think they're all four of them, like they have very interesting and fun kits, balance wise. Obviously only 2 of them are good. Like Invisible Woman's crazy, she's fun and she's really strong, and the Thing is kind of crazy too, and he's just hella fun. Mr. Fantastic is a little rough, but at the very least I think he's fun to play. He might not be the greatest, but I think he's at least fun. Same thing with Human Torch. I've been seeing a little more like Human Torch defenders as of recently, but in my games, I still don't really see him very often. At least not in like console diamond. I think all the characters look really well designed. The abilities and like visually, I think the game is stunning. I think it looks awesome. But it does kind of have like really shitty like optimization. Like the game, like I'm on console like PS5, and sometimes I'm still like lagging, and I know like it's not the greatest on PC. Now I'm on console, so my game doesn't really crash very often, as I keep hearing about in like PC, but the frame drops that I get in this game, it's kind of crazy. Like I never really experienced that in Overwatch. But other than that, I think the monetization model is, kind of standard. $20 or so for a skin bundle is kind of like standard at this point for free-to-play games in the Battle Pass model. I know some people were not happy with it, but it's a free-to-play game. That's just kind of how they run at this point, and it is all cosmetic, so at the end of the day you don't have to buy anything you don't want to. No heroes behind battle passes. They learned the lesson from Overwatch. Now balance wise, this game has kind of like, it's interesting. I will say hero bans are an absolute like godsend, I think. And it really prevents like crazy, like annoying metas from taking place, because you can just ban a character if you don't want to play them. Like, I can't tell you the last time I played against Spider-Man. So there's almost like a sense of agency, you know. In Overwatch, you're kind of just at will of the balance, and the balancing there has been a little rough, you know. You can't just choose to ban fucking Kiriko. Imagine, you know, that'd be great. But you know, they are, again, Overwatch is learning. They're introducing hero bans. So I'm not here to shit on Overwatch at all, and I want to see it succeed still. But Marvel Rivals is just kind of doing everything right, for the most part. Some of the support designs in that game are a little questionable, I think, you know, Marvel Rivals. I feel like the problem is, like, they're just so easy to play. In general, not all of them, you know. I think Loki's really cool and well designed. I think Invisible Woman, although she can sometimes be like a bit heel body, like, I think the overall direction of her kit was pretty cool and interesting. But one of my critiques, I think, is the support ultimates. A lot of them really just kind of feel like variations of Transcendence, you know? Just like You Can't Die, essentially. They're all going into fucking God mode. And in Overwatch, you know, Transcendence is like almost a one-of-a-kind type of ultimate, you know? You don't really have ultimates that you're gonna be surviving through literally everything. And keep in mind, like, Transcendence is on a 6-second cooldown, so when I first like witnessed the 12-second Luna Snow ultimate ability, I was mind blown. I was like, wow, this game is very much going the complete opposite in terms of like balance philosophy, which again, like, it's cool to see. Like what if Overwatch ended up going a completely different route than it ended up going, you know? That's kind of Marvel Rivals. Obviously, like, Marvel itself is a pretty big IP, so people were, you know, Marvel fans are probably gonna at least check it out, you know. So it had that going for it in terms of like it just being a success. And some of these characters, honestly, I didn't know half the roster until the game came out, and like these characters are all like, they're awesome, they're cool, and they're already, a lot of them are like so fleshed out and stuff. And it feels like Overwatch has kind of abandoned the whole like lore part of its game, which I feel like was a big appeal, the whole like hero fantasy element of it. Whereas Marvel Rivals, they already kind of have like an archive of like Marvel movies and comics and all that stuff, and they can obviously continue to go down the route of adding their own cinematics and have their own kind of little Marvel world, if that makes sense. But either way, you kind of feel more immersed by default, because these characters already kind of have, for the most part, like relatively deep backgrounds and lore and all that stuff. So that itch gets scratched, because Overwatch is kind of not doing that at all right now. Hopefully the era of Overwatch cinematics comes back soon, because I really do miss it. It was such a cool like experience and like part of like enjoying Overwatch, you know. But other than that, you know, I mean, I don't have too many gripes. I hope that they continue to expand like the other roles, specifically like support. I feel like we need more characters like Loki that do kind of interesting things and don't just kind of heal bot or have ultimates that just literally send you into Transcendence for however long, you know. I was watching the like Group Up podcast, and one point that was brought up was like a lot of the support ults are just kind of circles of healing, which is kind of true when you think about it. Invisible Woman's ult is a circle of healing. Like, granted, they all have like various kind of interesting things that they do. Like Invisible Woman, you go invisible and it slows down people that are inside of it. Like, it has like cool like mechanics. It's just, it does so much healing that like truly the main point of using that ability is to survive like big ultimates, you know. Because yeah, you're not gonna die in the circle unless you're hit by like very specific things, you know. Mantis, again, like that's a healing in a circle. Luna Snow, obviously. So I think it would just be cool to see more interesting like supporting mechanics than like you just immortality essentially. Tanks, I think we just need like Emma Frost or like a baddie tank, because I don't know, Magneto's relatively fun, Groot's kind of fun, but none of them really I don't know, I just don't really have my my character in the tank role yet, I guess. So I haven't been playing tank too much, so I don't really have the strongest opinion. But I think the one thing I have noticed is that there seems to be more tank players in this game. Either that or like people are just more flexible in this game and willing to kind of compromise than the early days of Overwatch, when DPS, like, everyone just kind of wanted to play Genji. So that's kind of cool, at least. But I'm honestly very much looking forward to season 2 of Marvel Rivals, and hopefully I will make some more content regarding it and stuff now that I've kind of feel a bit more settled into the game. And it's honestly a good time to be a fan of hero shooters, because you got two honestly pretty good options right now. Like, yes, you know, the communities are at odds and people will tell you that Overwatch is shit, and each game has its own set of problems, and I think Marvel Rivals, the honeymoon phase is kind of starting to wear off, and people are starting to, recognize, like, Overwatch isn't like the worst thing in the world. Maybe it does do some things better than Marvel Rivals does, but Marvel Rivals obviously does a lot of stuff that Overwatch I wish would have done. But it's cool to see, like, you have options now. I love being able to, play Marvel Rivals. If I get bored, I can go play Overwatch now because there's new content. There's actually content in Overwatch. Like, the perks are pretty interesting. Like, they're fun to play, And I hope that they continue to do experimental stuff, down the line, kind of messing with core, like, fundamental gameplay elements. I think that is the way forward, hopefully, for Overwatch. Hopefully someone gives them the bigger budget and the bigger team so we can see them kind of compete a little bit. They're competing. They're doing good. I'm not trying to kick Overwatch at all. I love it. I'll be a Overwatch truther until the servers are pulled, But I want to see it thrive, and I want to see Marvel Rivals thrive too. I just like this genre of game, and I think that it doesn't necessarily matter which game is the one that's kind of spearheading it. I'm just really happy that we have a hero shooter like this that is kind of taking over and being like a big mainstream force. I think that's awesome. So I'm happy. I think everything's cool. We'll see how both games end up going down the line as the year progresses and updates are made. I'm excited. So I think it's a good time to be a Marvel Rivals / Overwatch fan.